Mr. President, I was here those 11 years ago. It was a very similar day to today, a beautiful fall day, low humidity. For us Coloradans, low humidity is something we've come to expect in all cases, bluebird skies, but it turned into a terrible day with terrible events. And I thought I'd reflect on what they mean for our country 11 years later for a few minutes. As we've all said today, and we all know, these attacks are forever etched in our collective memory. We lost 3,000 fellow Americans, 3,000. And it was a diverse cohort of Americans. Every religion was represented, every race, every region. It was something that even as I try and think about it again, I'm almost overwhelmed. But we also have another memory associated with that day. And that was the amazing, beyond belief, selflessness and bravery of our first responders and the men and women in uniform, as well as the resolve of whole communities who came together to help and comfort one another. Late in that day, lawmakers came together on the U.S. Capitol steps, Mr. President, like we did today, to say, "We stand united." During this time, Americans seeking some good to come out of these sheer acts of sheer evil looked to each other and to their leaders in Washington to contribute to a greater cause of unity. Such a dark time, we saw the very best of America, a nation, a community, and a people willing to stand together in the face of adversity that we didn't initially understand or comprehend. And that strength of unity brought us together, and over the last decade, we've made great strides in combating the evil of terrorism, and we owe a debt of gratitude, a deep debt of gratitude to those on the front lines of that battle. Intelligence officers, our men and women in uniform, and countless others have relentlessly pursued our enemies who seek to do us harm, and we must honor their sacrifices. And that brings me to this point, Mr. President. Every time a veteran's unemployed or has injuries that aren't well treated or finds himself or herself in a place so dark that suicide seems like the only way out, we've failed in our most solemn duty. We must provide the best possible health care, services, and benefits to those few Americans who are willing to risk anything and everything for us. We should be ashamed of anything less. And that's why it's fitting that today, on the anniversary of 9/11, the Senate voted to move forward on legislation to help post-9/11 veterans find jobs. Now, Congress and the administration have been focused on helping these vulnerable veterans find jobs. We've passed legislation. The President has championed initiatives providing tax incentives and grants to businesses to hire veterans and offering veterans jobs training programs. But still, Mr. President, the unemployment rate for veterans of the Afghanistan and Iraq wars remains higher than for the general population and much higher for veterans aged 18 to 24. That simply is not acceptable. We can and we must do better. So the bill that we're going to consider, the Veterans Job Corps Act of 2012, is a solid step in the right direction. We all recognize the obstacles that new veterans face in translating their military experience into civilian jobs. We know that that is the case. And this common sense legislation will attempt to smooth this transition by connecting veterans with good-paying jobs that fit their skill sets and providing our communities with opportunities to hire veterans as firefighters, police officers, to work in the public safety sector, to work in any sector. When our veterans believe in themselves, they're up to any charge. They're up to for any mission. I have the great privilege, I know the presiding officer and I serve on the Armed Services Committee. I also serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee. And as a member of those committees, I want to urge all of us to pass this bill as soon as possible. There's still time. We could perhaps pass it tonight. I could offer a unanimous consent request. But we need to do this, and I'm completely serious here, Mr. President, to provide our heroes with a small measure of what we owe them for their incredible service and sacrifice. But as I think more widely, as I consider what I've heard at home from Coloradans far and wide, passing this bill alone is not enough. In looking back at the days and months after September 11th, I cannot help but admire our nation's resolve and the sense of togetherness we had in facing a shared challenge. But I also can't help but be well aware that 11 years on, we are now a nation at odds. Partisanship is at an all-time high. Congressional gridlock prevents even common sense ideas from winning the day. And middle-class Americans just wonder when businesses will have the certainty they need to begin hiring again. For me, it seems a powerful argument and a powerful insight that a better future for our country can be and is, if we will hear it, grounded in our nation's deep-seated respect for the courageous feats and sacrifices of those who answer the call of duty. Our military men and women have done their job. The public safety officers in the city of Aurora, back in July when we experienced such a terrible shooting, they've done their job. But now it's here in the Congress time for us to do our job. It's not too late for us to harness the gratitude and the admiration that we have for those who've given everything for the United States and come together once again to do right by the nation that they have fought so hard to secure. So as we remember the events of September 11th and honor those men and women in uniform who fought so hard to keep America safe, we must recognize that our actions, not just our words, in the months ahead may be the greatest way to show our appreciation for their sacrifice. So let's employ the doggedness of our military men and women, that doggedness that they exhibit on a daily basis in order to address the shared challenges of our time, to work together and to cast aside the partisan differences that stand in the way of our future prosperity. The American people deserve no less.